And we're live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Wednesday and it's 9 a.m. So here we are. Happy to be here. A nice, cool Wednesday morning here in Wisconsin. So I don't know where you're at or what you're up to. But today we're going to talk about bullying. Not bullying in the schools, not the bullying that happens when you're kids, because I experienced plenty of that. And it's kind of funny. I had the chance to attend my 40th anniversary a few weeks back, my 40th high school reunion, and sat and talked with one of the kids who bullied me for like a half an hour. Had a great conversation. And as a matter of fact, it's kind of funny. His daughter just married my brother-in-law's nephew. I know, kind of a weird connection, but yeah, so now they're kind of in the family in a way. Anyway, so we're going to talk about bullying. And what I want to talk about today is how bullying is bogging down your business and what you might need, a couple things that you can do about it. Because, if you're the CEO, mostly who I'm talking to, well, I mean, in any business, if you have a leader or a team member who is a bully, it can have a lot of negative impact. Maybe you're experiencing that you're not growing as fast as you'd hoped, even in the current economy. And maybe you're getting way more pushback on changes that you've tried to make, than you used to. Maybe people aren't, as willing to change. Maybe you're hearing rumblings, issues or complaints about one of your leaders. You're hearing that they are disrespectful, people don't trust them, they're arrogant. You're hearing words like micromanager or controlling, all sorts of things like that. And I want to, yeah, we're connected here. Okay. What happens? There's impact to every part of your organization when this happens, when you have a bully on your team. It impacts your team. So first of all, you're going to get a lot more complaints. You're going to get a lot more issues being raised, either to HR if you have an HR organization, or there's going to be a lot of complaining just even amongst the employees. So there's time spent that they could be spending doing productive work when they're spending time complaining. There is anxiety and stress and burnout that can be created from having a bully on your leadership team. They are spending so much energy trying to navigate away from this bully, navigate away from what a friend of mine, someone I know who was helping me kind of brainstorm ideas around this, said, when you're MVP, maybe this is a very valuable leader. Maybe they actually are really smart and you really want them on your team. And he said, when your MVP is an ASS, which I really like. I almost called this live that, how is this is affecting every part of your organization. It's affecting your teams, the stress, the anxiety, you're not getting the input. There's a lack of input. There is a lack of, there's fear going on. There's a loss of trust, especially they're going to lose trust if they think that you as the CEO or you as senior leadership are ignoring it or tolerating it. If they think that you believe that this kind of behavior is okay. And there's so many things. I'm going to actually flip over. I should have printed this out to have it in front of me. I did a talk a few weeks back. Sorry about that. Something strange in my mouth. So I did a talk a few weeks back, and I talked about. I asked the group to brainstorm, and I gave them like 2 minutes to do this, not very long, and asked them what does bad leadership look like or feel like. And there were so many words that they came up with: blockade, martyr, I have to do everything, pounding the desk, always on the phone, unmotivated, inconsistent, unmotivating, untimely, constant negativity, lack of communication, lack of caring, micromanaging, closed minded, um, lack of trust, instills fear, lack of responsiveness. They're not responding to their employees. They're not listening to others. That's a big one with the bully. They're not listening to others' opinions. They're shutting people down. There is a lack of team, maybe a lack of direction, or maybe there's only one direction with no other input from anyone. Um, and a lot of times employees hate coming to work at that point. They just hate it. And so, if we look at, all of the impacts on the team, that then impacts their productivity. So you have the impact on your employees personally and on, how they feel and their well-being. And it then, seeps into their behavior, because if they are in constant avoidance of this, they're trying to avoid any conflict, they're trying to avoid any confrontation, they're trying to avoid conversations with this leader, then they're not going to be productive. They're not going to be as engaged. They are not going to be able to get as much done, because there's so much energy being sapped away from them by dealing with this leader, by dealing with this bully on the team. And a lot of times what will happen is then deadlines will start to get missed, or deadlines will only be completed with heroics, which then creates an additional layer of stress. So there's so much stress, so much anxiety, so much frustration, so much conflict internally for people, because they are trying to avoid these bullies on the team. And it could be a bully in your leadership team, it could be a bully as a team member. And we can, talk about that. And then the other thing that it really impacts, so three major impacts, is your team members on their, individual ability, their well-being, their mindset, their stress levels, burning them out. You may actually start to lose employees. You may see that employees start to transfer out of that leader's team. If we'll continue to focus just on this being a leader. And so their productivity, deadlines aren't being met. They're only met with heroics. Those heroics cause all sorts of additional stress and conflict and challenges. And the other main thing that this also impacts is your bottom line, your profit, your revenue is being impacted for several reasons when you have a bully on your team. First is, this is probably, over time, is your reputation starts to become damaged. And people talk internally, employees leave, they talk to each other, you might have trouble attracting, really great talent. Another thing is you're going to miss risks. You're going to miss risks because people are afraid to speak up. You're under the curse of cordial hypocrisy, usually in the case where you have a bully, because people are being nice and being compliant out of fear or loyalty for this bully. And no one wants to address the situation. No one wants to solve the problem. And so you're missing risks that may then hit you and you'll have to deal with, which take extra time, extra money. And you're going to also miss opportunities. When people are in stress, they're going to only do what they've always done. Our reptilian brain, we have the prefrontal cortex, our thinking brain, and we have our reptilian brain, the amygdala. The amygdala wants to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and be efficient. And being efficient means doing what it's always done. And so they're not going to be looking out for new opportunities. They're not going to be looking out for, what more could we do? They're not going to offer alternative ideas. And that's the third thing under the impact to your bottom line, is there's going to be a lack of innovation, a lack of creativity, a lack of creative problem solving, because you have this bully who doesn't listen, isn't open to alternative ideas, who is actually stifling anybody else's input on the team, stifling, different ideas from what they're thinking and wanting to do, or from what's always been done, which is another thing that came up on my bad leadership list was, it's the way we've always done things, or this is how I do things. And so what can you do? Let's transition into a few things that you can do. You've got the impacts, which are your impact on your well-being of your team and the behaviors and the how your team feels, which then impacts their productivity, which then impacts your bottom line. So all of this is impacting your revenue, your bottom line, your profits. And so the first thing is to really gather as much information as you can before taking action. Find out what you can about the behavior, about specifics about the behavior. Now, you want it to be things that are observed, not I heard this or I heard that. And it isn't just one time I saw. You want to hear things specifically and ask to speak to team members individually and ensure that their input is confidential. You want to have a private conversation with that leader. And you want to address their behavior, not the person. And so I won't go into all of how to have that conversation. We can do that on another live. But you want to really express your concern and help try to understand what's going on with them. Is there something in their life that's causing additional stress if this is new? And really try to listen to what they have to say and set expectations with them in terms of what you expect in terms of behavior, what you want the culture of your organization to be like, and have, if necessary, if there's high conflict, or if there's conflict between the bully and one of his or her team members, maybe you need a neutral third party, someone from human resources, an outside coach, facilitator, to mediate and to help resolve the conflict between the team members and this leader, this bully. Also, you want to, the second thing, so that's open communication and conflict resolution. Then you want to really make sure that you hold them accountable, that there are consequences for their behavior, and that there is support for them. And I think the biggest, clearly, you want to clearly communicate that if things don't change, if this doesn't change, then I will do this. I will, move you out of that part of the organization, or maybe there will be, them being removed from the organization. You also want to provide support, whether that's, employee assistance, EAP, whether that's a coach. I will tell you, I've been through this. I got the does not play well with others on my report card. And I've had coaches over the years, and they were tremendous help in me seeing things differently, me seeing myself differently, me changing how I was thinking about situations differently, and understanding myself and understanding situations differently. So provide them the support. Don't let them try to go it alone. Don't let them say, "Oh, I've got it. I'll change. Don't worry." Really kind of encourage. And at one point, I was given a coach because there were some very stressful situations that caused some does not play well with others. And, I was given a coach, and it was powerful. It was so powerful. And then you want to look at the entire organization. Before that, in terms of the consequences and the support, you want to make sure you follow through. Because there's nothing worse, like with kids, if you don't follow through, if you set boundaries, if you say, if you scream, you're going to go to your room, and then the kid screams and you don't send them to your room, they're going to continue to scream. They don't care because you're not following through. So you need to follow through on whatever consequences that you've set up. So if this is, the third, fourth, fifth time you're getting complaints, and you say, okay, we're going to give you two more chances, or whatever that might be, or you're going to go through 6 months of coaching, and if things don't shift, if we're not getting more positive feedback, then you're going to go on a performance improvement plan, or you're going to be, let go. Then you want to really make sure that you're looking at the culture as a whole. So how can you ensure that your entire leadership team, that your entire organization is really built around the culture that you want? And part of that needs to be respect, inclusivity, accountability, because you want to make sure that when there's that kind of behavior, that the other parts of the organization see that something's being done about it. Okay, so you want to provide modeling. You want to model the behavior that you want others to have. You want your whole senior leadership team to model that behavior. So maybe there's some workshops, some leadership workshops there where you make sure that you're all on the same page. With small to mid-sized organizations, the focus on culture isn't always there. In bigger organizations it is, or maybe from the startup it was, and then as you started to grow, it kind of fell by the wayside. What are those behaviors? Because culture is all about how you behave. What are the behaviors in the organization? And you want to offer training, education, coaching for anyone who training and education on what that culture needs, you want that culture to be, and then coaching on what, for people who are struggling. And then you want to have, decide if you're going to have a zero tolerance from a bullying perspective. Now, in schools, a lot of times you hear this zero tolerance for bullying. Sometimes in the workplace, we've come to but allow certain behaviors. And all of a sudden, those allowing becomes allowing this and allowing this and allowing this. So you're allowing more, and worse. So you want to look at what is, how are you defining bullying? How are you defining does not play well with others? How are you defining that situation where people are going over the line? And what are the consequences? And then encourage feedback. Encourage, if people aren't comfortable going to that leader right away, then encourage skip level reporting. That there's someone, whether it's HR or maybe there's through EAP or some way that you can get feedback on that leader. Do a 360 review. Get to the point. What I would love to see is getting your organization to the point where people start to feel comfortable giving that feedback directly to that leader. And maybe we'll do one of these lives just on, creating a culture of feedback, because feedback is so critical. And there's so many people, and you'd be surprised how many people in your organization aren't comfortable providing feedback. And so how can you create that culture of feedback? And then just regular check-ins, check in with that leader, check in with their team. How can you, to see how are the behaviors changing as that person is going through coaching, as that person is going through whatever support you're giving them. So you have to have a real balance when addressing this behavior. You want to offer opportunities for growth and change. And if you really get that resistance and that there isn't that self-awareness, and if they're not open to coaching and not open to change, you're facing a really, really hard reality that they might not be the right person for your organization. And so you really want to look at, are they open? Are they willing to become more self-aware and more, aligned with the culture that you want in your organization? And if they're showing a genuine willingness to shift and a genuine willingness to change their behavior, then you really want to work with them and do everything you can to support them. And so you want to look at, where is this bully? Is there a bully in your leadership team? And I use the word bully, and there's bad leadership behaviors, and I'll even post this whole list somewhere. I'll create maybe I'll create an article with all of them listed in it. of what a whole team of employees and business owners have put together in terms of what does bad leadership look like. So, you want to create open communication and have ways to develop conflict resolution, implement consequences and offer support, and then really look at how are you creating that culture. If there's any way I can help, I'd love to DM me. And we can have a conversation because I am the coach. I am leadership. I do leadership development. I do leadership coaching, and I do focus on the leaders who have got the does not play well with others, who are the bullies in the organization, to help create that shift. Because sometimes it's a very delicate situation, and sometimes it does take time to really kind of look at and shift and help move the perspective and shift the perspective, because a lot of times these came out of defensiveness and fear for many, 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 many years. So please reach out if you have any questions or would like to chat about the opportunity to have a coach for one of the bullies on your team.